Hi everyone, this is For the Love of Comics. If you're new here, welcome to this channel which is all about celebrating our favorite comics irrespective of genre or publisher. And if you're not new here, welcome back. I hope you've had a good week. I've had a sort of long and draining week, so I thought that I could relax by sharing with you a couple of my most recent reads and a selection of some of the new arrivals that I'm hoping to get to soon. And I'd love for you to share in the comments below books that you've been reading recently or books that you're planning on reading soon if you're the type of person who plans their reading. I have about 10 or 11 books over here, so let's jump right into a quick jaunt through some of my recent reads and new acquisitions. A couple of my friends online run this comics club on Facebook, and they've started this really good thing, sort of like a book club in which people declare which books they're going to read and then post regularly updating on the progress they've made. I'm usually not a very planned reader. It tends to be chaotic and things come in and out of my reading list out of nowhere. But I thought this was a great idea for me to put down at least one or two books that I'd like to get to every month and hopefully make some headway into this long list of books that I have to read. So one of the books I committed to read this month was The Hypo, The Melancholic Young Lincoln by Noah Van Sciver. I'd heard a lot of good things about Noah Van Sciver but never read any of his works. I think this is his debut book and I'm a fan of portrayals of Lincoln. I haven't read any lengthy biographies of his, but I have read a number of comics and of course movies and television, and I find him to be a very interesting character. I really enjoyed this book. This is a look at a younger Lincoln long before he became president, at a time when he was suffering from not just poverty but also depression, and shows the formation of the character who would become famous as the President of the United States. I love the storytelling in this book. It fell somewhere between Rick Geary's detailed historical work and Chester Brown's more plain and simple depiction, particularly in Louis Riel. But it succeeded for me in making Abraham Lincoln into this very real and human character, but at the same time you can see where he would go from here. It's a very unique take on biography and very well done. Speaking of Chester Brown, another book I finally finished is Mary Wept Over the Feet of Jesus, Prostitution and Religious Obedience in the Bible. I'm a fan of Chester Brown's. You've seen some books of his on shelf 3 and shelf 8 of mine, and this is one of his works that I've been missing for a while. I admit that at first I was a little concerned about reading essentially Bible stories, but I finally got around to picking this up and reading it, and I loved it. It's not as literal as Robert Crumb's Book of Genesis is, but it does have much of the same flavor, in which you see a unique artist putting their unique spin on stories that may or may not be already familiar to you. And this book also contains detailed notes at the end, which are illuminating and shows you how much research went into this. Published by Drawn and Quarterly, as is Melvin Monster Volume 1 by John Stanley. I'm a big fan on John Stanley's work. I have the Drawn and Quarterly volume of Nancy stories that John Stanley did, and I have to thank my wife for helping me recognize that John Stanley was also contributor to Little Lulu, which I didn't know. I've been wanting to get this book for a while. This is a ragged, used copy, but is pristine inside, which shows us this handsome reproduction of these classic comics with the panel colors and even the paper color matched to the original. John Stanley's work, like Carl Barks's, is extremely appealing to me from a technical point of view of angles and movement and pacing, but also from the storytelling point of view and having a completely lovable character as its protagonist. Melvin Monster was a great read. I hope to get my hands on Volume 2 someday. And the last book that I've been able to finish this month so far is My Hero Academia Volume 1. This was very enthusiastically recommended to me by one of the viewers of this channel, who also kindly pointed out to me that it was on terrific sale, so I picked it up for a bargain price, and I really enjoyed it. I have to admit that I was a little worried at the beginning. I thought it would be loud, full of people shouting, the kind of manga that I had not liked in my childhood and stayed away from manga for many years until I realized my mistake. But what this book does really well is merge the bombast of a particular type of manga storytelling with the bombast of American superhero comics, and being about superheroes and being an interesting take on superheroes, I think it manages that balance really well. It also gives you a likable protagonist who, being a non-superpowered person in a world of superpowered people, presents a very unique point of view. I liked it. I'm interested in reading on. Now we get to some new arrivals that I'm hoping to read in the upcoming weeks. Over here we have a couple of volumes of Conan from Dark Horse Comics. This is Conan Shadows over Kush. This is actually volume 17, but I picked it up because it was on sale for very cheap. I've actually been reading the Conan omnibus volumes from Dark Horse, so I've read volumes 1 and 2, which are the Kurt Busiek stories, which I really enjoyed. And this is jumping forward quite a lot from there, but I think a lot of Conan is completely readable standalone. If there's a 2 or 3 issue arc, it should be collected within this. I really enjoyed the Kurt Busiek, Carrie Nord, and Greg Ruth stories, so I'm looking forward to seeing how these are. And the second Conan volume is this hardcover of The Jewels of Gwahlur by P. Craig Russell. I bought this used on Facebook and it looks really good. I'm a fan of P. Craig Russell's artwork, although a couple of my friends who are big Conan fans have remarked that this art may be too clean or too neat to suit Conan. And flipping through this book, I kind of see what they mean. It's reminiscent of Tarzan, but doesn't necessarily look as gritty or as grungy as I'm used to seeing Conan, the Barbarian, of course, look. However, it may be well matched to the story. I'll just have to read and find out. Also just arrived is Graffiti's Wall by Ram V, Anand and Aditya Bidikar. This book has been around for a while now. It was originally on Kickstarter where I missed it, but it hasn't been very easy to get in India. It seems to be finally available, so I jumped at the chance and I'm really looking forward to reading this standalone graphic story. From the recently concluded New Delhi World Book Fair, my wife got me this copy of Anthony Bourdain's Hungry Ghosts, also from Dark Horse Comics. I know very little about it other than it's ghost stories and it's written by Anthony Bourdain, but I did notice that this is a Berger Books imprint. Coming into my Fantagraphics Crazy Cat collection is this volume 1933 to 1944. I have all of the volumes until 1926, but I guess I'm jumping forward a little bit because I found this used at a very low price. I can see that it is torn, not just the cover, but the first couple of pages as well. I didn't really expect that, even though it said used acceptable. I'll have to repair it, and maybe I can make a small video on how I repair books that arrive in such condition. Let me know if that would be interesting to you guys. In my what I'm looking forward to in 2019 video, I remarked that it had been a while since we'd seen some new Corto Maltese stories, and after that I got to thinking and I found that the reason I thought it had been a while is I had missed the last 2 books that were published. So in 2018 we saw the publication of The Golden House of Samarkand and Tango as part of IDW's Eurocomics Corto Maltese reprints. I've said this before, but I just love Corto Maltese. In one of the first stories I read, he had a line in which he said, "I'm not serious enough to give advice and too serious to take it." And I was hooked from right there. These stories are modern and international and really a terrific achievement of the ages. I'm glad to have these 2 volumes. Tango is thinner, like a Fable of Venice. The Golden House of Samarkand is thicker, sort of like the earlier volumes. So that's 8 Corto Maltese volumes so far. I think 4 or 5 more to go. So that was a small selection of my new reads and new arrivals for January 2019. As I said, I'd love to know what you've been reading and look forward to reading. If there's anything you'd like a closer look at, let me know in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching. This has been For the Love of Comics, and I'll see you at the next video.